why Brexit is better than you think. So there's a lot of naysaying and negativity surrounding Brexit, but I thought for once, let's just do a video about the positive benefits of Brexit. And I know many of you will disagree with me or have counter arguments to every point I have. If so, put them in the comments. But this video is going to be a slightly biased look on the benefits of Brexit. There'll be a video coming up on the negatives of Brexit, but this video is purely just positive.
On an independent United Kingdom.
Independence. Britain will be independent from the customs union, single market, European courts, etc. Everything that comes with part of being as part of the European Union. In order to avoid a hard border in Ireland, we will match the EU's tariffs until December 2020. Effectively, that means until December 2020, the UK remains in the customs union. But there is a cut-off date, December 2021, meaning all being well and we reach a deal, we will be able to carry on outside of those things, so we will gain our independence from the EU.
Ever wondered what 64,000 individual acts of parliament look like? Well, they're all here. Pretty much all of the UK's laws written down on sheep or goat skin and stored here in the archive in Parliament. The biggest scrolls, I'm told, relate to issues of taxation. The smallest are divorces. Aha, this is arguably the most important thing in here, the European Communities Act of 1972. Essentially, it enshrines a principle that British law had to comply with European law. It's like this is the boss of everything else in here. Of course, all that's about to change. Brexit means British law will once again be supreme.
Sovereignty. By taking back control, we will regain British sovereignty. The referendum was democratic, and by listening to it and enacting it, the people of Britain will regain control over the EU establishment. There will be no more democratic deficit in having more MEPs from outside your own country deciding laws which affect yours.
Everyone's worried about immigration.
Let's take our country back again.
People could get houses, now you cannot get a house.
They're making palaces compared to what we're living in.
There's a lot of people ride the system.
We want our country back.
Close the borders, is that what you would do?
Completely.
Lower immigration. Brexit has already seen EU immigration fall. We now have the power to control immigration to more sustainable levels. The government wants to end free movement of people from the EU to the UK. The government is yet to come up with a post-Brexit immigration policy, but it means that we can now target immigration to sectors who need immigrants most.
He may well be remembered for the man who gave Britain back her freedom and allowed us once again to reassert our own democracy and freed us from the shackles of the European Union, which is a failing system, a system that is leading to the rise of the far right in many countries, including of course your own, which is something we should be very concerned about, that the remoteness of the Brussels bureaucracy, of the elite, from the peoples of Europe has made people very unhappy with the way they're governed and has led to tensions across the continent of Europe.
There will be less red tape. So the EU doesn't want a bureaucratic Brexit with problems and delays getting goods from the UK to Ireland. So the UK proposes things like visa-free travel and use of existing driver insurance policies when driving in Europe after Brexit. And of course the UK won't be subject to the European Court of Justice anymore. Contributions to EU budgets. The UK pays the EU £375 million a week. That's actually higher than the £350 million a week you all saw on the side of a bus. But we get back £95 million a week, making a total loss to the UK of £280 million a week. We will essentially be cutting an entire department from British spending. And of course, many people didn't actually notice the return that we got from the EU in terms of their daily lives.
Yes, we're having a number of strands of talks. The first is what we call the continuity agreements. These are agreements that the UK has with the US as a party to the EU, so we have to ensure that they continue as we leave the European Union for reasons of business and market stability. Secondly, we're looking at short-term outcomes where we can achieve some bilateral liberalisation while we're still in the European Union. Thirdly, we're kind of scoping out the future agreement that we might want to have. And fourthly, we're working together to see how we can help improve the global economy and the pretty poor trading environment that we find ourselves in today.
Trade deals. If the UK leaves the customs union, we will be able to make our own trade deals from countries outside the EU. Some positive reactions from around the world include Trump saying he's ready for a big and exciting trade deal. Xi Jinping, the president of China, said he's ready for a golden era of relations. Canada wants a seamless trade deal, and Australia is very keen to do a trade deal.
Key word about this Brexit affair is uncertainty, and the longer the uncertainty, the higher the risk. We certainly hope that all parties, the UK as well as the European Union players, will decide to reduce and eliminate that uncertainty.
The EU could collapse or even run more smoothly. So Brexit emboldens Euroscepticism around the EU and populism, leading to more countries wanting power back for themselves. But also, without the UK, the EU can concentrate on its own needs and not have to worry about the UK. So either way, it's better for the people of Europe that the decision can be made, it can be enacted, and it can be done. It gives them the choice.
But her majority turned to minority, a mess of her own making.
She's a remarkable and she's a very talented woman, and she doesn't shy from difficult decisions, but she now has to obviously consider her position.
The collapse of UK politics. So this might be a benefit to some, it might be a disaster for others, but Brexit has already seen David Cameron resign. UKIP has basically disappeared in the last election, and support for the main parties has lessened. We could be seeing a new party rise up, one that represents the people more than the established parties. We could see the House of Lords abolished. We could see Scotland becoming an independent country. We might see proportional representation introduced in the UK, so those third parties can do better. Either way, the UK has been seriously shaken up politically by Brexit, and that only emboldens democracy.
Printing money is the easy part, as every government knows. Protecting its value, more difficult. British politicians like to talk about the pound in your pocket. Well, the real value of that pound has gone down since the referendum, some 15% compared to the US dollar.
The lower pound. So the lower pound does have some benefits, such as lower house prices and increases in UK-based tourism. Long term, the pound has a better opportunity to do better than the euro, being less reliant on the European economies. So, you never know, the short-term economic impact of Brexit might only be short-term. We've yet to wait and see.
Well, we're servicing a vast array of end users in the transport sector. We're servicing people who are solely concerned with national distribution, but we're also servicing companies that are dealing with international distribution. I don't believe that will change in any way. These vehicles will continue to transit Europe in just the same way, whether that's to Switzerland and Norway or to France or Spain. I don't really see any difference in that at all. From a business perspective, I'm, like many people, sick of being over-regulated. I believe that we have a great opportunity here to deregulate business in a positive way. I believe we will have a great opportunity from an industrial perspective to negotiate our own trade agreements. It's an opportunity for us to take back control, and this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity that we should seize.
Less competition from EU companies. So EU companies will now find it harder to trade goods across the border, meaning UK-based companies can now thrive in the UK market. Britain can become self-sufficient in the jobs market.
That officials in the Treasury had deliberately developed a model to show that all options other than staying in the customs union were bad, and that officials intended to use this to influence policy. If this is correct, does he share my view that it goes against the spirit of the Northcote Trevelyan reforms that underpin our independent civil service?
Yeah. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to say that my honourable friend's account is essentially correct.
Political jobs. To get the Brexit deal through, it meant the employment of many civil servants. There's also a massive legal battle that will still go on, not just for the government, but for individual companies who want to get their head around how they will legally trade across the border, meaning more lawyer jobs. We might also see some completely new political figures and journalists in the coming years who don't come from the already tainted establishment. So the EU referendum was a choice between change and no change. The UK wanted to change by leaving the EU. It could all go wrong. We might not leave the EU in the end, but we will certainly change. And that's the biggest positive of Brexit. But do you agree with me? Join in the debate below and subscribe.